Welcome to English Vibes.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something you sent in this really incredibly detailed blueprint for teaching beginner English. Specifically, it's focused on confidence. Our mission then is to kind of dissect how this thing is built. It's for a segment called Don't Be Shy, Speak Up, aimed right at helping new learners get past that feeling of being too shy to talk.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because looking at it, the main goal isn't just language, it's really psychological. We're basically analyzing a shortcut to, well, conversational courage, I guess you'd call it. The structure feels super intentional. It's all about knocking down those emotional hurdles, the fear, the shyness, while also giving them the basic tools they need. Sort of a mix of teaching and anxiety management.
Okay, let's unpack that structure then, because the first thing that really jumps out at me is the prescribed tone. Often language lessons can feel quite formal, very serious grammar charts and all that. But this blueprint specifically says it has to be energetic, humorous, inclusive, and motivational, delivered naturally. Why that specific mix? Why the warmth and playfulness for a beginner who's probably already feeling nervous?
Well, think about it. If a learner is just frozen solid with fear, they're not going to learn anything, right? There's this concept in education, the affective filter. It's basically a mental wall that goes up when someone's stressed or embarrassed or anxious. And when that filter is high, the brain just sort of closes up shop for new information. Doesn't matter how good the lesson is.
Ah, okay. So you've got to open the emotional door before you can even think about the intellectual one.
Exactly. And this blueprint tackles that head on. Right in the intro, it says, you must include a short, funny, kind of self-deprecating comment about being nervous to speak English yourself. That little move, it does something powerful. It creates instant relatability. It signals, hey, it's okay to feel vulnerable. I feel it too.
Yeah.
That quick bit of humor and honesty, it just drops that affective filter right down, sets a tone of safety, not judgment, from minute one.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like an immediate signal. Mistakes are welcome here. But doesn't that risk watering down the actual language learning? If you're prioritizing feeling good over getting it right from the get-go, are you maybe sacrificing some fundamental quality?
That's always the tension, isn't it? But for this specific problem, tackling that crippling shyness, I'd argue no, you're not sacrificing what matters most at that stage. This blueprint clearly puts fluency and confidence first. The immediate aim is just behavioral activation. Get them to open their mouth, make sounds, without feeling judged. Accuracy. That can be polished later. But if you don't smash through that psychological wall first, that learner might not stick around long enough for the polishing stages. This whole segment is really about jump-starting the engine, not fine-tuning the transmission right away.
Okay, so that initial emotional safety net is the foundation. Then, once that shyness barrier is hopefully lowered a bit, you need to give them something to actually say. Which brings us to the 6 core expressions in the blueprint. I thought the way these were grouped was really clever. They're less like random vocab and more like, I don't know, building blocks for courage.
Yes, they form a very specific functional toolkit. Think about typical beginner lessons. Maybe you learn, hello, goodbye, where is the station? Standard stuff. This segment focuses on meta-language. It's words that let the student talk about the act of learning and speaking itself, which is, well, pretty smart.
Let's break down that functional grouping because it seems really deliberate. First up, you've got 2 phrases that are pure action and expression. Those are speak up and express yourself, kind of the direct command or maybe permission for the learner.
Right. Simple, clear, tells them what to do. Then, the next pair tackles what's probably the biggest single hurdle for shy beginners. That fear of messing up. So these cover the normalization of mistakes. Make a mistake and try again. Just by teaching these phrases explicitly, the lesson is saying, look, messing up is part of this.
Yeah.
It normalizes the struggle.
Okay, but this is where I might push back a little. If you teach them, make a mistake and try again, but there's no live teacher there to correct them when they make the mistake, aren't you just sort of letting them practice errors?
That's a really fair point. But you have to remember the target learner again. They're often so paralyzed by the fear of making the mistake in the first place. For that person, just getting the words out, any words, is the win. By make a mistake an actual vocabulary item, you're shifting the goalpost. The focus changes from, oh no, don't sound stupid, to something more like, okay, I spoke, and now I see I need to try that again. It reframes failure.
Ah, okay. So including that specific language kind of builds the recovery mechanism into the lesson itself. Failure isn't the end, it's just a step.
Exactly right. And then the last 2 phrases, they cover the growth mindset. Practice makes perfect, and be confident.
Mm.
These give the learner that longer view, right? A reminder that this initial awkwardness isn't permanent. It leads somewhere better. So it's a whole psychological and linguistic cycle. Take action, process the error, and keep the growth vision in mind. Pretty neat.
What's also crucial here, and the blueprint spells this out, is how these 6 expressions are taught. It's not just a list. It mandates a very interactive method.
Yes, that's key. For every single one of those 6 phrases, the instructor has to do 3 things. Give a short example sentence, easy to understand, then add a quick, maybe slightly humorous comment to help it stick again, keeping that effective filter nice and low. And then this is the most important bit, but include a specific prompt and a pause, forcing the listener to actually repeat the expression out loud.
That pause, that intentional silence is huge, isn't it? It makes sure they're not just passively listening. It forces immediate low-stakes oral practice. The second you learn express yourself, boom, you're physically practicing saying it, not just thinking about what it means. It turns passive listening into active speaking, even if it's just repeating.
It really maximizes that active speaking time, even when there's no live interaction possible. The whole lesson feels like it's happening with the learner, not just at them. And that repetition, it starts building the muscle memory, getting them comfortable with the sounds before they have to generate their own complex thoughts.
Right. So once they've got those tools, they've practiced saying them out loud, then we move into actually using them, which is section 3, the 2 practice segments. And the way these are structured, it feels like climbing a ladder, you know? Starting easy and getting slightly more complex, but hopefully without causing panic.
Exactly. The first rung on that ladder is the fill-in-the-blank activity. This is super controlled. The speaker gives a short sentence or question with a blank, and the learner has to fill it in using one of those 6 new expressions.
And again, the instructions are really specific here. There has to be a pause after each question for the learner to answer aloud, and you keep encouraging them. So this tests if they understood the words and can recall them in a simple context. It's contained, it feels safe, they're producing language, but the choices are very limited.
It's like the final vocabulary check, really. Did they connect the word confident with a situation needing motivation? If they can pop the right word into the blank, okay, they're probably ready for the next step.
And that next step is the crucial pivot, the mini conversation practice. This is where, like you said, the training wheels start to come off a bit. The learner moves into giving more free-form, personal answers. And the blueprint is really specific about the questions. 4 short, simple ones about daily life. The examples are things like, what time did you wake up? Or who do you like to talk to in English? Super basic, everyday stuff.
And that choice of topic, that's actually one of the most brilliant bits, I think, because you're moving them from just filling a gap, which is low cognitive load, to actually producing a bit of personal narrative. That's harder. Now, if the questions were complex, like, what are your views on renewable energy policy? Well, then the learner's juggling difficult language and difficult content. That load doubles, and bam, the anxiety spikes, the filter goes up.
But by keeping the topics incredibly simple and personal, your morning routine, people you know, you basically remove the content challenge altogether. You're just asking them to talk about things they already know inside out.
Precisely. It frees up all their mental energy to focus just on putting the English words together. And the absolute critical element here, structurally, is that mandated silent response window. The blueprint says 3 to 4 seconds of silence after each question.
That's silence. That's the final push, isn't it? It's just long enough to make it awkward not to say something. It forces them to actually try and form a response, not just wait for the next audio cue.
It is the moment of truth, really. You started by saying, hey, it's okay to be shy. You gave them words about being shy and trying again, and now you gently force them to use language on the safest possible topic, themselves. It's this beautifully scaffolded process, all designed to maximize speaking time without triggering that fight-or-flight stress response. The whole blueprint is just the...
Well, it's a masterclass in behavioral activation for someone who's scared to speak. That really was a deep dive into, the architecture of confidence building. So just to quickly recap this blueprint for success, it kicks off with that relatable, funny intro to lower the shyness wall. Then it arms the learner with that very specific 6-word toolkit words for action, for dealing with mistakes, for growth. And then it walks them through structured practice, getting them to speak out loud, first repeating, then filling blanks, and finally answering simple personal questions with that crucial silent pause.
And the core idea driving it all is reframing what participation means. It makes speaking mandatory, but in a way that's super structured and feels emotionally safe. It nudges the learner out of just listening and into actually doing without setting off the panic alarms that often shut beginners down completely.
So, thinking about this for you, the listener, how does this apply beyond learning English? We just analyzed how specific language tools those 6 phrases were used to tackle the psychological barrier, shyness.
Yeah, which raises a pretty interesting question, doesn't it? What other areas, maybe in your work or personal life, could use something similar, like a vocabulary-driven confidence architecture?
Mhm.
If you're, say, prepping for a tough negotiation, or maybe dreading public speaking, or even learning a complex new technical skill, could you define your own core terms? Maybe your own 6 words for action, for failure, for growth in that specific context? Could you design a little blueprint for yourself to force some low-stakes, immediate action?
Something to think about applying that same mindset, building your own confidence toolkit for whatever challenge is next on your plate. We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.